How's everybody doing? Just waiting for people to log on a little bit before we start this thing. Let me know how y'all doing in this quarantine. Type a little message. I just braided my hair today. I got some Travis Scott style braids going on with some beads. Giving tropical queer vibes. You feel me? Yes. How's everybody doing? Drop a little what's up. Drop a little what's up. Let the queers know your status before we start and we get this thing running. I'm feeling good today. Ooh, hello, Omar. Hello, John. Mooly been in the building. Hey, what's up, Glow? Much love. Hi, Kiara. What's good? The queers are arriving. Beautiful. Oh, you're drinking some wine? I was drinking some Presidente. Y'all trying to see my big-ass Presidente? I'm so fucking Caribbean. I used to drink this all the time when I lived in DR. And we would go out to the park and share. And now I'm alone, so I'm sharing the beer with my solitude and y'all here today. That being said, yo, what's up, Joelle? What's good? We're gonna start this thing. We're gonna, you feel me? Get to the shebang. Welcome to In Honor of Our Roots. For those of y'all that are unfamiliar with In Honor of Our Roots, In Honor of Our Roots is a grassroots event series that provides a brave space for queer creators of color to delve into, document, and share their coming to be /roots. So that's why we're here. We use workshops, exhibitions, vendors, experimental performances that revolve around self-reflection themes to activate what we call a queer imagination, which is also what this live is about today, and promote the spiritual autonomy of our communities and explore the potential for collective ancestry, which basically by that we mean, we're gathering and creating, and when I enter the room with my ancestors, and you enter the room with your ancestors. And so this multi-dimensional space attempts to understand what that is, how that works. I am Moréna, Espiritual, one of the organizers of In Honor of Our Roots, a performance artist, a teaching artist. I've been organizing with In Honor of Our Roots for a year and a half, maybe a bit more, you feel. And today we're going to be focusing on queer imaginations, which is a part of our mission statement, one of our core values as In Honor of Our Roots. We define queer imagination as the bridge between the heavens and the earth. You feel me? It is using art as prayer, as communication between you and the divine. Queer imagination accepts identity as something that is fluid instead of fixed. Queer imagination is something that embraces all of the people in your lineage that come and speak through you when you make art. All of the different timelines that can live through your art and through you. That's what queer imagination represents. Hello. And so today we are going to be interviewing somebody whose work we believe really represents the essence of queer imagination. Their name is Mimi Zhu. They are a Chinese Australian writer. And let me see. I'm like, is Mimi in the crowd? Is Mimi in the crowd? Waiting for Mimi to come through and ask me to share this live with them so that they can introduce themselves. Dun, 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 dun. But in the meantime, we're so happy to be back with In Honor of Our Roots after being on pause for like 6 months now. Did y'all miss us? We were previously hosted at the Langston Hughes house, and because of gentrification things, the space is no longer open, and so we had to stop our programming there and completely reimagine what In Honor of Our Roots was going to be. We had something completely different plans before this coronavirus thing hit us, and then just like everyone else, we had to reimagine what we were gonna do because of corona. And so right now we've decided to take a digital approach because we're like, yo, we still need to rally, get together the queers, and just share our shebang, you feel me? Share our art. And once we're able to finally get together in person, we will do so, but we ain't gotta put a stop to our flow. Hello, Delta. And so I think I just seen Mimi in the chat. I just did an introduction. When you're feeling ready, Mimi, you can ask to share the live and I will connect you. Perfect.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Moréna.
Oh my gosh. How
Hi,
are
beautiful. So I'm in a car and I have some flowers. So I'm sorry if there's any background car noises, but I hope that you can hear me and see me. I'm in the golden hour.
The golden hour
Yay.
looks beautiful. Where are you right now?
Yes. I'm in Arkansas right now.
Wow. What brings you over there?
So I am currently with my boo and the family. And I actually was in the middle of a cross-country road trip, but I ended up in Arkansas. But I do believe that wherever we end up in this quarantine is where we're meant to learn a lot of lessons, and I'm definitely doing a lot of that and getting a lot of time to really explore my.
Wow, yes, beautiful. Of course, I feel like you and your adventurous Gemini self would be on a road trip in the middle of quarantine. That's so beautiful.
Oh my God, I know. But I was like, I have to end the road. We have to pause it, obviously, because I'm not about to just travel around and be inconsiderate to other states, right? So I was like, okay, let's stay put and just believe in where I'm meant to be right now, you know?
Word.
Where are you?
I'm in Harlem. You already know.
Yes, the iconic wall, the creative iconic wall, the canvas.
With all of the writing. Yes, yes.
I love
Shout out to
it.
my altar, to my wall.
I love it.
Thank you. So I wanted to get us rolling into this interview. If you could just introduce yourself and,
Yes.
let people know your pronouns, who you are, what you do.
Yes, so I am Mimi. Thank you everyone for joining in. My pronouns are they and she, and I am a writer. And I endeavor to do a lot of work with community, and I mostly write like, well, I write for community and myself just to kind of understand a lot of fundamental feelings and emotions. What's really important for me is understanding the emotions of love and fear, because I feel like those are really powerful ones and the fundamental ones, and how they're very much connected. And I've been doing a lot of like inner work lately of just trying to understand love and fear and how I can befriend them and how they can befriend each other. And I think if everybody does that kind of work, you know, if everybody just explores their love and their fear, I do believe that we can come to a more, you know, unanimous understanding. But yeah, so I'm a writer. A long story short, I'm a writer. And it's been really hard for me to actually consider myself that, but I think now I do feel comfortable enough to say that, only because I'm not because I've achieved anything specific, but it's like I'm a writer because I write, and that's about it, you know? Um,
For real.
yeah, and I just want to say I really love In Honor of Our Roots, and I really love Moréna and the gang, and yeah. Y'all are very special to me. Thank you for
Thank
having me. I'm really
you.
honored.
Thank you for being on here. I think that what you're touching upon is something that so many artists that express from a real genuine place struggle with. You know,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that the mainstream world has all of these requirements for what it
Mm-hmm.
means to be a writer, what it means to be a photographer, what it means to be a dancer. And honestly, like, we have the right to reclaim those titles, and
Mm-hmm.
we can write to heal. We can, like, you know, dance to heal. We can engage
Mm-hmm.
in all of the art forms, and we don't have to be like, I don't know, following all of these technicalities to the T to be worthy of carrying those
Mm-hmm.
titles, you know? So thank
Mm-hmm.
you for sharing that. I have particularly followed your writing for a while. Really touches me, inspires me. I love the simplicity that you write with. I feel like it's very permeating, you know, it's very easy to understand. It's easy to walk away with a message from it, and it still
Mm-hmm.
feels full of so much depth. Um,
Thank you.
so definitely, y'all, if y'all have the capacity to support Mimi's work via Venmo, I pinned this comment. Y'all could find the information pinned to the live. They deserve to continue to make amazing work. Um, and so, with that being said, I'm going to dive into the main questions of this interview. And
Great.
the first one is just, I'm wondering, when did this journey start? How did this journey start with writing? You know, when did you get into it? How did you get into it?
Wow. I mean, I think we start the things that we believe are our callings way earlier than we think of, or way earlier than we really know. But as for me, in terms of writing specifically, I remember like doing this specific work, like writing and healing. I mean, I've been writing for a very long time, as long as I could read. But in terms of writing, um, to intentionally heal and to understand myself, it was actually after a pretty painful and abusive relationship that I like literally did not know where to look. I looked inside myself, and I was just like, I have all of these feelings of extreme pain and extreme heartache and grievance, but I really don't know where to put it, right? And I'm like, how do I make sense of my feeling? And so I decided to write them out, and without really realizing it, it was just making me feel better and allowing me to like, I don't know, it like saved my life in a lot of ways. And that's when I kind of knew that writing um is my calling, and that writing was something that would not only save me, but it can save so many people. And yeah, like we were saying, you know, writing doesn't have to be technically good. And the reason why a lot of my writing, I endeavor for it to be really easy to understand, because like fuck all of that like extremely academic language, you know, fuck all these like huge words that make it intentional to not be understood, to make it intentional to exclude people. Like, I just want to say it plain and simple from the heart, and that's all I can really do, you know? And when I realized I can say things from the heart, that's when I was like, I think I'm onto something. And I felt every time I've been in a really heavy and emotional rut, I've turned to writing, and it has really saved me so many times. And then I'm like, oh shit, that came from me, Wow. And that's really affirming. And also, it's not exclusive to me. I think everybody can write in any sort of ways. It doesn't have to be on paper. It doesn't even have to be like with a keyboard or whatever. I think writing is actually quite an abstract and fluid form of art. And I think it's just also like making track of history, and its movement in a lot of ways. So, I mean, look at your wall, Moréna. Like your wall is literally just a canvas, and that's another example of that.
That's so beautiful. I think that what you speak about in particular, this writing from the heart space, really ties back into um, our theme for the live, which is like queer imaginations, and like
Mm-hmm.
what that means in work. And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like we define queer imaginations as sort of this bridge between the heavens and the earth. And so in writing from the heart space, in a way, like the heart has no limits,
Mm-hmm.
like the heart can be heaven when we feel love, when
Mm-hmm.
we joy, when we engage in celebration and all of these positive emotions. So I feel like your work for that reason was such a beautiful embodiment of this same theme. Um, so I'm also curious about the role that queerness plays in your work, how it
Mm-hmm.
influences your writing, or also maybe just your day-to-day work, right? Because who says that work is just your writing?
Wow. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Work is not just our writing. Work is honestly being alive. You know what I mean? And therefore, like queerness also directly aligns with that. In terms of my own queerness, I've known that I've been queer for a very long time. Um, but I never thought it useful. Do you know what I mean? Like you always think that, I mean, we are conditioned to think that our queerness is instead of a blessing, it's a curse. And also not applicable to daily life. It's something we have to compartmentalize or put away or store away and not allow people to see in fear of making others uncomfortable. But really accessing my queerness is accessing my truth, which means that every single day I am allowed to live. And I think because I'm accessing my own truth, you know what I mean? Which is absolutely a privilege in a lot of sense of the word, but in my own I think what could be loving myself more than accepting my queerness and seeing it as blessing and blissful and extremely radical, you know? Um, and also seeing the ways that that queerness can uplift other queer folk, especially queer people of color, who have laid down the groundwork to allow me to love myself in the first place and to love that queerness and feel pride in my own queerness, you know?
For real. I think
Yeah.
that um, with queerness in particular, I tend to think of openness, an
Mm-hmm.
openness that allows us to love ourselves in a deeper way,
Mm-hmm.
that breaks us free of binaries and sort of these unnecessary, like, societal rules that make us feel like we need to fit in these particular boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that queerness pushes us to imagine for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, on that
Mm-hmm.
note of imagining, what would you like to push other queer people to imagine, or just people in society to imagine, you know?
I think right now, actually, I've been really engaging in stuff like different talks and different podcasts, and I'm really lucky to have access to like the internet, and these kinds of and social media and stuff where we can literally see so many people engaging in conversation and in connection. And I think that in itself is a really imaginative way to achieve connectivity right now in this pandemic. But also, Arundhati Roy is this writer who wrote about how the pandemic is currently a portal. And I think that's really, really profound, because I think what she means is that we have the portal, right? Which I guess is we're stepping into it. We don't know what the future is going to look like. And so, in this limbo state that we're in, we have all this time to imagine what could be better. You know, what we were living in before, which I feel like if I'm not going to accept that as normality, because obviously it was very flawed. It's built on capitalism, it's built on racism, it's built on white supremacy. But looking beyond that, now is our time to be like, what can I imagine? Now is when we're really exercising imagination as like a muscle, and being like, wow, like, you know how Octavia Butler, she thought in like science fiction. She dreamt in science fiction. So I'm like, isn't that imagination? And is that really that far from reality? I mean, I didn't imagine that we'd be in this pandemic. So isn't this pandemic kind of also like a figment of imagination in a way? So if this is possible, then anything is possible beyond this. So specifically what I would imagine, and I hope everyone is imagining, is like really immense solidarity and
Mm,
togetherness. When we can actually be physically together, I think it's really important to just like think about how we're going to be together, and how we're going to uphold each other and uplift each other and come back together. And yes, like indulge in like all the ways that we love, like you know, dancing together, singing together, learning from each other, but also really just imagining uplifting each other the ways that we wish we had before this pandemic even began, you know. So I don't know. It feels wrong to say this pandemic is a blessing, because obviously it's not, and it's extremely, extremely messy. But I also think that people are powerful enough to turn this into something, into a really profound lesson of imagination.
right. I love what you said on it feeling like a portal, because I think that I've definitely been reflecting a lot
Yeah,
on um you know, the concepts of like time, and time not being real, and time actually being way more malleable than we give it credit for. And I think
mm-hmm.
that Corona has really shown us that the structures of time that we were obeying are an illusion, because everything has been put to a stop. And so,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we really do have the opportunity, though, to put everything to a stop whenever we want. And
Totally.
when we do put it to a stop, I agree, you know, we should be thinking of solidarity. We should be thinking of how we can support each other. We should be taking those moments of rest that we deserve, and thinking about how we can be there for each other.
Totally.
So, our final interview question before we open it up for people watching to ask any questions is about manifestation. So, how does your writing serve as a vehicle for manifestation or spiritual expression?
I think for me, affirmations are like meditations, you know, and I have a really hard time meditating. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm a Gemini Sun, Sag Moon, so that's just a lot up in there, and I know my air sign, my fellow air sign, truly understands that. But there's a lot of like cognitive action going on, and so when achieving mindfulness, it's really hard to shut it off, you know, and I think for me, guided meditations really work. And so I've been following like guided meditations, or trying to find as many as I can. And then after a while, I was kind of like, can I write one for myself? Or can I like have a mantra that I fully want to believe in? Can I be the author of a manifesto that I want to follow, and, you know, really, really like allow me to guide myself, because I didn't realize, but I actually have the capacity to do so. So my affirmations kind of serve as like a meditation, to remind of mindfulness, to remind us of our bodily presence, and our like our importance to the earth. And yeah, I think, I don't know, it's really hard to think about really how much power we have, and I think power is, it can be abused so often. And it's not surprising when it is, but when we do really use our imaginations, like we're saying, and we use our queerness and we understand all of it, I think these affirmations just come hand in hand, and it just is like a verbal message or a written message of how I'm feeling. So,
That's
yeah.
so beautiful. Affirmations are so powerful. Affirmations can really make you face your shadow self.
Yeah,
Your
and that's the thing. Affirmations also don't have to be positive all the time. You know what I mean? They can also be like the tough things and like, but then affirming is like it's more of like a I see you, right? It's not just like you're good, you're great, you're fine, everything's good. It's more like a I see you and it's okay. Like it's compassion. My therapist told me that mindfulness and affirmation is actually like compassionate observation. And when she said that, I was like,
wow.
right? Because like to observe yourself and to forgive yourself is really, really difficult.
Mm.
We're not taught to like observe ourselves, we're taught to consume ourselves and other people. So that's helping me a lot.
Thank you for sharing. I actually saw this thing on Twitter that spoke about like being really honest about where you are when you're going to do affirmations. And so instead of saying something like I am joy if you're not feeling joy, saying something
Mm-hmm.
like I am working towards joy.
Wow.
And I think yeah, that really resonates with what you were saying about the compassion, and I think also just the honesty and the transparency that we do need to heal. Like we can't be out here acting
Mm-hmm.
like we're 100% fine all the time. Like sometimes we really
Mm-hmm.
do have to acknowledge that we're not okay
Mm-hmm.
so that we can begin to walk towards being okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Together.
right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank
On
you for
that note
asking
of,
such thoughtful questions, Moréna.
we got the love. Um,
Mm,
So now I would like to open it up to the people watching. If y'all got any questions, I saw y'all were writing. Somebody referenced, I think Audrey Lorde while you were giving one of your answers.
icon.
Radical self care from Audrey Lorde. You got some shout outs from Gemini Gang in the comments. So flower us with some questions. Hit us. Let us know. And while y'all feed us with the food for thought, I will just remind everyone that if you have the capacity to, especially because everyone is like on rotation in this live, like people are constantly entering. This is in honor of our roots, a Instagram live on the topic of queer imaginations featuring Chinese Australian writer Mimi Zhu. Um, and the info to support them is pinned to this live. We are currently waiting for some questions, or it could be some comments, but we're trying to have some queerdo interaction, y'all. Hit us up. What's good? Brian
Yeah.
says, Mimi, we love you. You got some love from the East Coast.
Oh, love you, Brian. I miss the East Coast. I know I'm in the South, and I'm learning a lot from it. There's a lot of like nature and birds and trees. Like every morning, the birds sing hella loud, which is such a blessing that I feel like I didn't really get to experience in New York as much. So I'm really trying to take the simple things. Also, okay, just letting you know, my phone is on 1%, and I don't have a charger.
Dum, 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 dum. Wow. The Gemini pauses. Will they still be in the game? Will they be outed from the game? Let us find out. Well then, so y'all, I think Mimi's phone died. It's alright. It be happening. Our phones be dying. Um, yeah, so save your questions in your hearts. I will say though, thank you for watching this live. Um, this has been in honor of our roots. Queer Imaginations. Oh, Mimi's back. Do you wanna? Okay, okay, okay. They got the questions. They gonna answer the questions. Y'all better type the questions.
The chaos.
Did you find
No.
it?
Okay, I literally was like, oh no, 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 I'm hanging by a thread. And then I was like, I'm just gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it on live. And then my phone died the second. But I'm back because my boo let me use the phone. So I'm very grateful. And that has 65%, so we're good.
Facts. Yo, that's divine. That's divine timing. We're supportive. We understand things ain't. We in quarantine. We gotta
Right.
have. You
Right. And
know.
my phone is always, air signs, their phones are always on low percentage. I'm sorry. It's just the way we are. So, but I'm back.
Word. So we have one question. Some someone asks, radical self-love, easier said than done. Tips, tools, strategies.
I just want to give a shout out to Radical Love Consciousness really quick. They are a New York-based collective with Moréna, Amy, and Nema, and just like it's like a growing, like it's like not just three people, but it's like an entire community. And I've really learned a lot about radical love through um them. They've taught me a lot, and I'm really grateful. But in terms of radical self-love, that's actually a really tricky question, and I don't think there is a singular answer. But I can give tips, and I think the tips that I have would be immense gratitude. Do you know what I mean? Just like immense gratitude, and like I'm reading Braiding Sweetgrass right now, which I think, I highly recommend. It's by Robin Wall Kimmerer, and it's a book of indigenous wisdoms and just that connection to the earth as well. And I've just been thinking a lot about to love myself radically and to really believe in that. I want to come from a place of gratitude and believe that I have a lot inside. Um, and also every day, and I think Robin said this, and I'm going to very loosely quote it, but she said that every day the world feeds us. Even when it's hurting, the world feeds us, right? And of course, the world also fails us, but the world feeds us. And I choose to be grateful. That doesn't mean being ignorant. That doesn't mean putting your head in the sand. I think it just means by giving space to the things that hurt and by giving space to the things that fail us, why don't we give the same amount of space to the things that give us joy, right? Like clean water, which not everybody can have, but when we do have clean water, how often are we grateful for it? You know what I mean? When we have food to eat, but from the earth, the vegetables and the fruit, how grateful can we be? When we have each other as friendship, you know? So yeah, that's something that really helps me with radical self-love, even though I know I didn't talk too much about the self, but it's like if the world is willing to feed us, if the earth is willing to feed us without like the systems getting in the way, which I know is impossible, but if the earth has always been trying to feed us, then aren't we worthy of being fed, and aren't we worthy of abundance, and to truly understand what we can and how we can reciprocate to the earth? I hope that was an adequate answer.
Well, that makes me think of Nema actually, and this interview that we did recently on Afro-presentism, and something that they speak about is like Afro-presentism reaffirming that now the present is an opportunity to redefine yourself and to actively choose to not be defined by your trauma. And so what you're saying really reminds me of that. Like, it's so easy to live in these oppressive systems and constantly think about the ways in which we are receiving harm, which are valid and necessary to address, but also not what we deserve. So how are we also looking at what we can be grateful for, looking at how we want to reimagine things? We have some comments over here.
I'm
Someone
loving
said,
this
I love
discussion.
that. Another person said, I try to be grateful of clean water, um, the drinking water, and I have to remind myself I'm so fortunate. Um,
Yeah.
Someone else said, I just started taking antidepressants and I feel like it's so against my beliefs because I believe in holistic stuff and loving yourself, but lately, due to Rona, myself has become crazy. Um, it has made their depression and anxiety really worse. Yo, I feel that
That's
personally.
real.
I feel like don't feel guilty for what you have to do to take care of yourself. Depression is really a chemical imbalance.
Mm-hmm.
And while holistic things help, like if that's what you need to be good right now, don't feel bad
Mm-hmm.
for being good, for taking care of yourself. So Muli asked, Mimi, how have your various spatial locations shaped your writing, being Australian and now being in New York?
Yeah, I mean, I want to like firstly acknowledge that I am a transplant in New York City, um which is native Lenape land. And I think it's really just important when you're gonna move anywhere. And I've been moving around a lot my entire life. When I was a child, it was pretty beyond my control. But I think that really instilled in me that there is an entire world out there, but the world is also a very sacred place. And also, there have been indigenous communities in every single one of those places. And a lot of those places I've been both a transplant and an immigrant, and that there is a duality there, right? That I want to be responsible for, but also be like, okay, so how can I, again, like with the earth, how can I reciprocate with this land that I'm currently on? How can I reciprocate and give back to the communities that also live there and have built those places up? And I think my spatial, I mean, I also have a Sagittarius moon, and so I have moved around a lot, and I've learned through moving around a lot, and I understand there's a lot of privilege in it. Someone just said, what is a transplant? So I'm just going to say it in my terms. Transplant is somebody who essentially moves to another place, a place different to where they are born. So, for example, I moved from um, Australia to the Bay Area initially, and then I moved from the Bay to New York. So that definitely makes me a transplant, just because I'm not born and raised in New York City. And I wasn't born and raised in the Bay Area either. So that makes me a transplant. Um, so yeah, I just think that just being really, really grateful of the places, again, gratitude, being really grateful of the places that you've moved to, or even that you were born in, at all times, really allows you to get this like spatial connection, um, that allows you to understand it and understand its communities and understand the place's indigeneity, and then really allow yourself to be like, okay, if this is where I'm going to be, then I'm going to like give back as much as I can. Um, which is also what centers around a lot of my work. And I think wherever I move, I really want to just be able to give back to any of the communities who live there and have been holding it down forever. I think that's super important. Yeah. So,
Um, the next question is actually about your work. Someone asked, what have you been working on lately?
oh, okay. I have some like secret things in the works, but I am working on a collaboration piece right now that you can wear on your body. Which I'm really excited about because I've never like made a t-shirt or anything. Um, but I'm gonna release it soon, and I'm fundraising for Seeding Sovereignty, which is an indigenous collective, grassroots collective, who are raising money for indigenous communities in New Mexico. Because the Navajo Nation has been hit really hard by the pandemic, unfortunately, and they are not being taken care of by the state, so we got to take care of each other. Yeah.
Ashe.
Yeah.
Um, so related to communities, someone has asked, how can they find the communities in their area? How do they start networking? So
Wow. That's a really, because it's like I believe that we're all in different places and different times, and it's really hard to seek it out. Especially now in pandemic, right? It's like, how are we going to really find each other, right? But hopefully when this is all done and we are imagining new ways to be together, I hope that we can find um these spaces, because I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of different movement and a lot of different like collective togetherness. Um, I hope that you do not feel intimidated by going to these spaces. I know that's a lot easier said than done, but for me, I just kind of threw myself into things. And a lot of the community that I was a part of are so generous and so giving. They've offered to feed me, they've offered to teach me, right? They've offered to show me so much of the place that I'm a transplant in. And this generosity is not limited to anybody, and it's not exclusive, hopefully, if these collectives are doing what they say they're going to do. So, I just hope that you can find these things. And also, right now, there's a lot of different things going on online, right? Where we can just like tap in. Like, I think today also like Erica Badu and like Jill Scott went on live together, which is like an iconic link up. When we have this access to this kind of stuff online, I think it's also really easy to find these collectives through Instagram and then following that. Also, just feel free to reach out to me, honestly. Literally just hit me up because I love sharing these resources. I know how scary it can be to move somewhere and not know anybody and be queer and be a person of color, and feel like you don't have a support system, but you can really just hit me up and I can direct you to all the spaces. But Radical Love Consciousness is one of them. Bufu is another collective that I really appreciate. Um, yeah, there's just a whole bunch of different things you can do. You can party together, but beyond that, we can learn together. We can just sit in a circle and hold hands. We can watch a movie together. So hopefully when the pandemic is done, we can do that. But for right now, this is what we have, and I'm so really grateful for it because I can see Moréna and I can hear all of your feedback. So
Word. Someone else, I believe, typed an app that they can use to find out what indigenous land it is that they're on. Um,
amazing.
in the chat, so that's dope. But yeah, definitely don't hesitate to reach out. You can also reach out to me if I know any information. I'll pass it along.
Oh my god!
Um,
And in honor of our roots, duh. Obviously,
yeah,
it's like
come
such a
through.
welcoming space.
Hey. Welcome to our space. And so we be digging down into the roots, getting grounded. And our final question is asking, how do we stay grounded? How do you stay grounded? Like, what physical things do you do, or spiritual things do you do?
Mm-hmm. I think for me, it's really hard to remember that I have a body a lot of the time. Like I said earlier, I think I exist in my head a lot, and so movement is extremely important. I mean, I see Moréna like dancing, and I think that can be extremely grounding just in remembering that you have a body that is also a temple and is also really important to preserve. Like we were talking about clean drinking water, that's also a way of groundedness, I think. Um, and listening to yourself breathe, I'm sure we've all heard that, but when I just pay attention to my breath, I'm like, oh, I breathe. Like I forgot I breathe. So that's really grounding. Just the reminders that I'm alive and that I'm here, and there's definitely a reason for it. And that reason is not based on productivity. That reason is because I've been gifted life, and I want to be able to use that gift with gratitude, and then use the privilege and the self that I have to reciprocate it. So yeah, grounding things. I'm just gonna say like specific actions, um, but stretching. Stretching is really helpful. Breathing, closing my eyes and listening to bird song, music, reading really grounds me a lot of the time. I can maybe send some like book titles that have been really grounding. I can send them to Moréna and then post them up on the story or something. Books that are really grounding and just remind me of my materiality and just our importance that we're here. So I hope that was
Right.
helpful.
I love your examples because they're so simple. You know, I feel like a lot of times when people talk about grounding, they can say like all these complicated things, and the reality is that sometimes we don't have the energy for all of that. Like I love especially the sounds, like stuff like that. Like I really resonate with that because it's like so easy to just put on a sound. It's so
Yeah.
easy to just turn on a song. You don't have to move your body.
Yeah. Thank you for asking me that because my answer is actually really different and it's been really on my mind the last 2 months as well. How can I ground myself in this chaos?
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful note to sort of end up on. I want to give a thank you to Mimi for allowing the interview to happen. I want to thank you to everybody who watched. I want to do a little bump to the if you can donate. And I guess we can cut it off with if there are any social media things you want to put people onto, any projects you want to tell people to be looking out for.
I I do a newsletter called Right to Heal. I release it every month, and I collaborate with a queer publishing company called Other Publishing, incredible queer and trans collective, and they help me out and design it for me, which is so incredible. And so you can sign up to that. It's in the link in my bio. Um, yeah, my Venmo is in honor of our roots, but I just realized there's a typo in it. So it's Mimi, MIMIZHU is my Venmo.
Oh dang, I'm sorry.
It's
But
okay.
it's also on the flyers.
It's on
So
the
if y'all
flyer.
want to donate, definitely go back and just look at the flyer and the information there.
Yes, I'm gonna
Um
type it in right now. This is
right.
my Venmo. So yeah, just feel free to just support it anyway and just stay connected. I'd just love to stay connected with everyone and talk and figure out how we can imagine the future after this.
Yes, thank you. So this has been Queer Imaginations,
Thank you for
brought to you
having me,
by In
Moréna.
Honor of Our Roots. We'll be back actually in 10 minutes with Bronx Caribbean artist Omar Abreu. Um, Fellow organizer Muli will be on here doing that interview. So, stay tuned for the
That's
next
fun.
part. But me and Mimi are out. Thank y'all for watching. Much love.
Bye.